it's Alex Vanover and welcome back to my craft room. If you are here for the first time, then welcome because I am so glad that you're here. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this adorable wedding denim jacket so that you can use it at your wedding reception if you'd like, or there's tons of other uses for it like during your bachelorette party or just in general during the time that you're engaged. So let's jump into it. So the first step to designing your bridal jacket is of course to decide what design you want to use. So I'm going to be using this floral frame that I bought from Etsy, and I'll be sure to link it down in the description for you. There are so many options and I found the best selection on Etsy, so that's where I'd recommend you start looking if you want to type in like floral frames and just see what options there are, because there are lots of more minimal ones, but I liked this one because I think it has a lot of texture and it's really going to make the wording on the back of the jacket pop. And then after we pick our design, I'll show you guys how to size it. So then you need to talk or think over what you're going to use on the back of your jacket. And one of the factors in that is you want to consider if you want to be able to wear your jacket more than once. So for example, if you were using this during your bachelorette party and your wedding, and that's all you want to use it for, you might just consider using the word bride on the back of it. And this is the font called Flawless Fairy Tale. I absolutely love this font, so I'll be sure to link it for you guys in the description if you want to utilize it. I really like the handwritten look to it, and I'm sure it's got some beautiful glyphs to go with it as well. I haven't checked those out, but I'm sure it's got some beautiful options. But anyway, so bride would be useful, of course, during your engagement. It would be fun to wear out and about. So that's one option. Another fun option that I've seen a bunch and I love is wife of the party, because honestly, guys, how many times do you get to be wife of the party? Like, that is so much fun. And as you can see, I didn't perfectly space these letters or anything because these are not the designs that I'm going to use. I just wanted to talk about some options and give you guys some ideas before I show you what I am going to choose. So wife of the party would be super fun, also for your bachelorette party or on your wedding reception as well. So if you want to make it and use it for those two occasions, that would be fine too. But my choice is to use just Mrs. And the reason for that is because I want to be able to wear the jacket multiple times. In case you guys don't know, I'm already married, so that's not really an issue. But the thing about putting like Mrs. Vanover, my actual last name, on the jacket is that would be a little bit strange to wear out in public in case I decided to wear it again. So Mrs. gets the point across and it makes it obvious that you're the bride, but it's something that you can wear a little bit more often because I wear wedding rings, so people already know that I'm already married. And one thing that I did with this is again the font Flawless Fairy Tale, but what I did is I went ahead and arranged it so that it's going to take up a little more space in the center of my floral frame. And I'm also going to size it so that the tails of my font are kind of going into the design. That just really shows it off and really makes it look like a cohesive design in my opinion. And I'm okay with, the tail of the M cutting into those flowers a little bit. That's perfectly fine with me. So once I'm happy with it, I'll go ahead and get rid of these other things I'm not using. I'm going to go ahead and select everything. Whoops. I can use Control Z in case you move something out of the perfect spot. I'm going to click and drag a box around both of them, and I'm going to select Weld. And the reason that I'm going to weld it is because I have this cursive font attached, but I don't have it welded yet. So I want to make sure that everything is one solid piece. And then the next step is to size this correctly to fit with your jacket. So my jacket is a size large, and when I measured the two main seams going down the back of the jacket, and that's the style of most denim jackets, is they're going to have a pretty big seam going along kind of two areas along your back, and the biggest that I could get it was ironically it's already 9 inches. The width needs to be about 9 inches for me to fill up that whole area, but also to not have to press it over top of those seams. And so I would advise you guys to do the same thing. Depending on the size of your jacket and the jacket that you're using, you want to measure between the main seams on the back and pick a size that's going to be as big as you can to really maximize that. So once I have everything ready, we'll go over to our Make It screen. And of course, I'm going to be cutting this out of heat transfer vinyl, so I'm going to mirror it. Now you have a choice on what kind of heat transfer vinyl that you want to use. I'm going to be using Starcraft Softflex, so that's just a matte white Starcraft HTV that I love. You can also do this out of glitter and all different kinds of things. But one more note before we move forward, I want you guys to take a look at this design and I want to show you why I chose it. So I'm actually going to go back to this other screen. So I really like the detail on this, but based based on how thick these lines look, I think it's still going to be really easy to work with HTV. Even at a huge size like 9 or 10 inches or whatever you make your design, you can still run across designs that are way too intricate and that are going to be really, really hard to weed. So that may be something that you want to practice on if you want to cut it out on another color or cut it out of adhesive vinyl or something like that to see if you can weed it. You may want to consider doing that just because it's going to be easier in the long run, and you can spend the time to weed it, of course, but for example, glitter HTV is a little bit harder to weed than regular HTV. So if you had something even finer than this and you decided to cut it out of glitter, that may be something to consider so that you don't give yourself a huge headache. But if it's really important to you and you really want to make that happen, then do whatever works for you. I just wanted to point that out before we move ahead. So we'll go back to our Make It screen and go ahead and mirror the design, and then we'll move over to our final screen. Then once your machine connects, you can choose the cut setting based on the type of HTV that you are using. So I'm going to be using Starcraft Softflex, like I said, which is just going to be the everyday iron-on setting. So I'm going to go ahead and let my Cricut cut this, and then I'll see you guys over at my table. I'll show you guys how to weed and apply this to your jacket. So the next step to creating your jacket is, of course, to weed your design. And one tip for weeding really, really intricate things and making it a little bit easier is you can actually weed straight off the mat, just like this, if you are really struggling with your design. I'm not going to do that because I tend to stick my arm to this part down here, but I did just want to mention it just in case that was something that might help you. So I'm going to be using an Easy Press today to apply our HTV. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my Easy Press so that it can be warming up. So I'm going to turn it on, and I'm using, like I said, Starcraft Softflex HTV. So for the temperature, it only needs to be set at 285 degrees. That's another reason why I love it, and we'll leave the time alone at 15 seconds. So it's going to go ahead and start heating up. I'm going to go ahead and peel this off the mat. And then I am going to cut off this one side because there's about a 3-inch gap over here where there's nothing cut, and I don't want to waste any HTV. Another reason why I really love using Starcraft Softflex for my designs like this is because it is actually held a little bit tighter to the carrier sheet than most HTV. So that means that it's a little bit easier to weed super intricate cuts. So that might be something to consider. I got mine from 143vinyl.com, and I will link it down in the description for you. So I'll go ahead and weed this, and then I'll show you how to apply it to the jacket. Alright guys, so I wanted to take a brief pause and show you guys about a tracing pad that can be really helpful with really intricate pieces like this. This is a tracing pad that I just bought from Amazon, and they're sometimes helpful and they're sometimes not. It kind of depends on the situation, but I find these really helpful for really intricate pieces so that you can try to see the cut lines through the HTV. And this stuff looks pretty dense, so I don't know if it's going to be super helpful, but since this is kind of an intricate project, I'm going to try it and see if it helps me weed. Well, it's not super helpful in this situation because, like I said, you really can't see any light coming through some of these more intricate designs, but I did want to show that to you guys because if you are weeding something, especially like glitter HTV, that may be something that is a little bit more helpful for you. But one thing that is more helpful is overhead light. So if you can get like a small desk lamp or something nearby and weed directly underneath that, that does make it super easy. I have a ring light up above me, so that does help me see the cut lines a little bit better. So as you guys can see, even though this design isn't super intricate, it still took me forever to weed. So that's why I asked you to consider, you know, how intricate your design is before you choose it. But of course, like I said, it also is worth it if you get the design that you love and to make a jacket that you want. But before I press this guy on my jacket, the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip this back over and I'm gonna inspect and make sure that I got all of the cuts that I needed to, because with a design this intricate, it's really, really easy to either miss pieces or to have stray pieces of heat transfer vinyl on the back of your carrier sheet because it's still sticky. And so it has a tendency to carry, you know, small pieces it doesn't need to. So I'm gonna inspect this real quick and then I'll show you how to set up your jacket for the perfect press. All right, I think this is good to go. So I'm gonna set it aside away from all of my other HTV scraps. Then I'm going to clean up all of the scraps that I had around my little weeding berry. And if you guys don't have a weeding berry from Amazon, you totally need to grab one of these. These are so stinking helpful for containing all of your small scraps. They are made of silicone, and so the little flaps just open really, really easily so that you can scoop your finger in and put them all in the trash at once. But they are great for collecting these pieces so that they don't get all over you or all over your project and end up making you add a little bit of extra HTV to your design that you didn't intend to add. So I will link one of these guys in the description for you. And this is also a pin pen. I forgot to mention this. I get this from 143vinyl.com, and these are a game changer for weeding. This is a pen body with a stainless steel tip needle in the end of it, and it's super fine and super sharp, but it makes weeding these really intricate designs so much easier. So like I said, I'll link both of these guys in the description below as well. So next we're gonna get set up to press your jacket. And so I have a few things here that I want to show you how I'm going to use them. So first of all, for the base, you definitely want to put something for the base here, because right now with the easy press and with pressing this HTV, the surface is the key. So you want to make sure that first of all, the table or surface that you're pressing on is super, super dense. So something like an ironing board is not enough. I also find that the like plastic 6-foot folding tables are not sturdy enough to support presses like this. So I highly recommend getting either a really solid table that you can use, or even pressing on like a countertop or a tile floor if you can do so safely, because those are going to be hard enough surfaces so that the easy press doesn't cause the surface to bow. Then on top of that solid surface, you next need something to raise the area that you're gonna apply the HTV up a little bit. So I'm gonna be using a Cricut Easy Press mat, which I really, really like. This is the 12x12 one that's a little bit bigger than my 9x9 inch Easy Press, but I wanted to show you guys this because I used this for the first couple of years before I had an Easy Press mat, and this works great. This is just an old piece of wood that I got from Michael's. It's nice and sturdy, and I actually stained it intending to use it for my wedding, but I never ended up using it. So if you don't have something like a Cricut Easy Press mat, you can definitely use something like a piece of wood. So I'm gonna set that aside. And next I'm gonna lay out my jacket, but I'm gonna add another layer underneath it to make sure that I get all of the area that I want pressed well. So as you guys can see, I got this super cute jacket from Amazon. It has these little pearls sewn into the top, and it is so, so adorable, but it does make pressing a little bit more complicated. So I'm gonna show you guys how I'm gonna set this up to make sure that I press the back of it really, really well. So I'm gonna put my Easy Press mat, of course, back between the panels of the jacket, because that's where I'm going to be pressing. And in case you guys weren't sure what I was talking about, these are the big seams that I referred to in the screen capture part of this video. This is the area where I'm gonna be putting my design. So this is the area that I wanna make sure is elevated, and I'm gonna fit my design in between these two seams so that you're not trying to press over top of them. Seams are one of the most difficult parts about pressing heat transfer vinyl onto a project, because they can make you miss a lot of contact with the heat source itself, and that's what makes it so difficult. So I know it may be a little bit hard to see, but right now I've got my Easy Press mat all the way underneath it, but it's still underneath some of those seams. So after I do a pre-press, I'm gonna show you guys how I'm gonna use a kitchen towel, and I'm gonna elevate the surface underneath where I wanna apply the HTV, which is right here, even above these seams, just to make sure that I get a perfect press. But since this is a little wrinkly, I'm gonna run my Easy Press over top of my jacket just to kind of get the wrinkles out. And it's not a bad idea to preheat the fabric. All right, so I'm gonna put my Easy Press back in its base and we will get this area figured out. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to take, this is just a kitchen towel from my kitchen, nothing fancy, and I'm going to fold it up so that it's inside the areas of these two seams. So I want it just a little thinner than that. But this is gonna take the areas above my seams so that I can make sure that I get a good application of my heat transfer vinyl. So then I'm going to flip the jacket up, but not necessarily move it. And then I'm going to put the kitchen towel, folded just the size that I had it, on top of the Easy Press mat. And another reason that the Easy Press mat is great for using with the Easy Press is so that it does protect my table and even my self-healing mat from getting too hot and causing the mat to kind of curl up due to the heat. And so now I've got both of my seams elevated just where I want them. So this is gonna help give me the perfect press. Next, I need to make sure that my jacket is all lined up so that I can add on my HTV. So I'm making sure that the seam up top is straight so that I can press my HTV and make sure that it's not crooked. It can be a little bit tricky to tell when you're pressing from this angle that everything is okay. Go ahead and tuck these under a little bit so I've got a little less fabric moving around here. That looks pretty even to me. So now I'm going to place my decal right where I want it. And I kind of want it toward the top of the back. I don't want it to be super low or anything. I'm gonna make sure that the misses is angled just like it was in Cricut Design Space. And it's definitely hard to see, but I wanna make sure that I can feel the kitchen towel underneath everything, and I definitely can. So that will help me as well. All right, I'll have to do this off camera, but I am gonna pick up the jacket real quick and just check that it looks straight when I hold the jacket. And actually, I'm gonna tilt it a little bit in this direction. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Oh, and I spotted an extra piece of HTV, so I wanna make sure to get that out of the way. All right, so now that we have everything right where we want it, I'm also gonna cover my design with a Teflon sheet. That part is not required, but it helps with even heat distribution, and it makes sure that if there's any spare pieces of HTV, it doesn't get on the bottom of my Easy Press. All right, so now I'm just gonna use my Easy Press, and I'm gonna stick it straight on my design, give it some pressure, and then I'm gonna press the C button. That's gonna allow the timer to count down. But in addition to the weight of the Easy Press, I am pushing down on it quite a bit to give it a good medium pressure. Okay, now I'm gonna lift it straight up and go back a little bit so that I can cover the entire design. I'm gonna press the C button again and do another 15-second press. All right, so I'm gonna lift it straight up, and then I'm going to take off the Teflon sheet and see if there are any areas that I missed. Maybe areas that didn't get as much heat. I think this looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and peel this off. If we have any issues with any areas coming up with the carrier sheet, then we'll lay the Teflon sheet back down and do another press. I can see some areas down here where we didn't get quite as good of pressure, so I'm gonna go ahead and lay my carrier sheet down just for protection of my decal, and I'm gonna do another press toward the bottom. I think one thing is that my towel may be a little bit uneven, so I'm going to fold it up one more time and make sure that this area is elevated. So we'll lay our Teflon sheet down and we'll do one more press right in this area. I'm just gonna do another 10 seconds because I know it got a little bit of heat already. So let's see how this went. And then I'm just gonna go back over top some of these spots, especially around the perimeter. I don't know if you guys can see that right there, but that HTV is lifting a little bit. So I'm gonna keep my Easy Press mat underneath my design, but I am gonna put the Teflon sheet over top of it. So the Teflon sheet is not quite as important when you have the carrier sheet on top, but when you just have straight HTV, you do not wanna put your Easy Press right on top of that because the chances of some of it coming up and getting stuck on your Easy Press are pretty high. So I definitely recommend using a Teflon sheet if you have one. If you don't have a Teflon sheet, then you can use something like parchment paper. That works really, really well. Just make sure that it is not wax paper because wax paper will stick either to your Easy Press or to your design. So I'm gonna start over here toward the left where I saw this being a problem, and I'm just gonna move this around in little spurts to make sure that I got everything that I want to get. And once I remove the Teflon sheet, I am completely done. You guys, these turned out so cute, and this is so easy to do yourself, and it's so much cheaper to make this yourself than to buy one. If we haven't already connected on social media, then I would love to get to know you. So if you make anything using my tutorials, whether it's a denim jacket or something else, and you share it out on Instagram, please use the hashtag DIYAlex. And if you want to connect with me on any other social platform, you can find me as DIY Alex Vanover. I'll also put direct links down in the description below in case you want to connect super easily. And if you haven't already, please click right here to subscribe to the DIY Alex YouTube channel. Scroll down just a little bit and ring the bell right next to subscribe so that you never miss when I upload a new video, Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope we can craft again soon.